are bright and shiny in my mind. You got me loving, hating, crazy indecision in my mind.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast, where the focus is on deer hunting, tips, tricks, tactics, and stories from across the Midwest. And now, here is your host, Aaron Blicey.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Blicey, and this is episode number 65. And today on the podcast, I have returning guest, Aaron Swan. If anybody follows the Fall Podcast, I actually had Aaron on back on episode 10, I believe it was. We talked about a couple of deer that he shot here in Michigan in one night, and it was like 283 inches of total antler he shot in one night out of one stand, 50 minutes apart. So if you guys haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that as well. To give you a little backstory, Aaron and I grew up together. He's, my best friend, best hunting buddy, and him and I have done a lot together over the years, and, we talk a lot and what we're going to do with our farms and where to hang stands and everything. We do everything, together. So it's pretty cool. I had him come on here, and today we're going to talk about small acres, and we really break down his 20 acres that he bought. This will be going into his 5th season on it. He bought 20 acres, and we call it Little Texas because it looks a lot like Texas. And we break that down year by year, what he did with food plots and stands and, things that he did differently throughout, year to year, second year, third year, fourth year, and they've killed some really good deer on that farm. And, driving by this farm, if you knew where it was, it'd be like, this is a farm that, it'd be nothing. It'd be an overlooked piece, and that's what makes it so unique. And he's able to hold a lot of deer and be able to be successful on it. And the one thing about Aaron is he works his tail off to be successful. He's got terrible luck. I will tell you that. He's got terrible luck, but he makes up for that in working his butt off. I mean, he puts in food plots every year and does everything the right way to get himself in a good position, to be able to be successful and really, capitalize on the goals that he sets for himself every year. So that's the biggest thing with him, is he works harder than anybody that I know when it comes to deer hunting, whether that's hanging stands or putting in food plots and stuff. And he's got a knack for it. He's done really well over the years, and year in and year out, it seems like he's always getting on deer, whether he kills them or not. He's having encounters with them, and he's just he thinks outside the box, and that's always a good guy to learn from. So I really think you guys will get a lot out of this, and it's a lot about the small acres and what he does, and you guys might be able to take something out of what he does and what I do maybe to implement on your farm. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it. I'm sure you guys will. So without further ado, here is Aaron Swan. All right, we are back for another episode of the Fall Podcast, and today I actually have a guest down in the man cave here, and it's my best friend, Aaron Swan. Swan, what's happening, man?
How are we doing today?
I'm doing good. I had you on the podcast, episode 10. It was a while ago.
It's been a long time ago.
Been a while. And today it's Sunday, June 9th, and I just got done shooting the Total Archery Challenge the other day, and we are heavy into food plots and farm management.
It's right around the corner, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. That's what I wanted to talk about today, is just small properties and just kind of do a BS here about what we got going on. And I really want to break down your 20 acres, because how many years are you into that now? 4 or 5 years?
This will be the 5th year, I believe.
Okay. So your 5th year. So, and it's come a long way. And, we're in that stage right now with food plots and getting the trail cams out and starting to see the bucks on velvet and all that. And you've been doing a lot of work. I think you just actually wrapped up all your food plots, didn't you, yesterday?
Yeah. Yep. Yesterday, last night, finally. The last 2 days been hard at it, but finally 2019, man, I'm done everything, which is nice. And they got rain coming in this afternoon. It's like a godsend.
It is. It's good to have that rain. And before we get too far, everybody that hasn't heard the podcast with Aaron before, I think it was called 283 inches in one night in Michigan. So, little backstory. 2 years ago now. It was 2 years, wasn't it? Two hunting seasons ago, Aaron had a night of his life that any hunter would love. And you had your 2 target bucks come out 50 minutes apart and killed both of them. One was, 140?
145 and some change, and
then 50
139.
minutes later, he came, and then 139 came out and killed both. So on October 4th, is that what it was?
Yep.
And if you guys haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that one. It's a pretty cool story. So that's kind of the gist of it. I mean, you and I have been friends for a long time, been hunting buddies for a long time. And basically, I mean, year in, year out, you and I do all our hunting stuff together. I mean, one facet or the next. I mean, we're always together doing that stuff.
Yep.
So today, let's start. I mean, let's break down the 20 acres in what I kind of dubbed, I don't know if you call it Little Texas, but it's a little, I know it is Little Texas, so we'll call it Little Texas. But, I mean, when you bought it, that's what it looked like, was Texas. Kind of, I mean, it was just autumn olives all over and thick, not a lot of trees on there.
No, more or less no trees. I got, 5, 6 actual trees that I can put stands in, which are 2 are in decent spots. The rest are more or less right on top of the road. So, but it's gotten a lot thicker as far as the autumn olive goes since when I bought it. But you're exactly right. I mean, I think you were the one that first said it looks like a Little Texas, and it did. I mean, it was just sparse all autumn olive, and it's been a tough go. I mean, I knew it was in a good spot, but it's been a learning curve, that's for sure, especially being a small parcel.
Right. And it's one of those pieces of property you drive by and you're like, it's overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, there might be, how many trees do you think you can put a stand in and is on the property?
I mean, that are in an even remotely decent spot. Most of them are right down that wood line, and that's right over top of the road. So probably 4. And all 4 I've had stands in.
Yep. And so you've been utilizing box blinds.
Yeah.
Which I want to get into a little bit here too, because I'm kind of getting to that next year is going to start using some box blinds on the 1 acre, you know, and try to, not a lot of trees over there either. And if I got to get into a spot, I got to do that. But, so yeah, I mean, it's a 20 acres. It's on the corner of 2 roads.
Yep.
So you're right on the corner there. And it's tall grass, knee-high grass, but autumn olives all over, so you can't see through the property at all, And what, year one, let's start with year one. What was your game plan? I mean, I know what it was, but tell everybody out there what your game plan and your goals were for year one.
Well, I mean, mainly it was, when I seen the property, it was for sale by owner. It had a house that was actually on moving beams, and it had an old trailer, an old barn. It used to be part of an old farmstead. It was quite a chunk, and then it got split up throughout the generations, I guess I should say. However, when I bought it, the main plan was to put a house on it. I didn't particularly think that it was going to be somewhere where I would be hunting, more or less. It was going to be a place to build a house. It was not too far, 3 miles as a crow flies from the main farm, the Christmas tree farm, and the goal was just to put a house on it, and then that's closed on it in fall. Then next spring, I had put out some mineral and put a camera on it and started seeing the deer that were out there and was more or less blown away. So then it turned into, now maybe do we put a house on it? Do you wait and put a house on it? Or let's make something happen as far as killing some deer out here.
Right. So when you went into that first fall, I mean, I don't remember what I did yesterday, so you're going to have to refresh my memory. What happened that first fall? Did you guys kill anything? You did kill 2 bucks on that, right?
3.
3 bucks.
Yep.
Oh, that's the year your dad killed that big one over there, too.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll blame you for that one.
It's not my fault. You didn't have to drink that much the night before.
Well, no, that was, it didn't do a lot. I put in one food plot, which has been, still hands down the best spot on the property. It's a low spot. There was one cherry tree, and it's got autumn olive growing all the way around it. So, something coming in, looking up, the tree looks like it's just completely bare. You're out in the middle of nothing. But you actually, from looking up from the ground when you're close, you do actually got quite a bit of cover. So that was the only food plot that I had put in. And
how big was it?
It's kind of like I actually have made it a little bigger through the years. I've made it more like a horseshoe now, but that year I just went small, simple, probably 15 yards wide by 30 yards long or so.
And it kind of wrapped around the autumn olive and everything, right? So the deer had to be right tight to you. So
yeah.
Yep.
The outskirts of that whole food plot, it was probably like not quite a half moon shape, but 20 yards max shot, anywhere from that 10 to 20 yard shot for the most part. So were any deer betting on you, or were you kind of a destination or a transition? It was hard to tell. I think, at one point I think they were betting on me, but with that autumn olive, that's been a whole feat for me. There's no travel patterns. They come out of anywhere, they go out anywhere. I know they bed there, but I don't know for how long.
Right.
I don't know if that's actually their home territory, which I do. After the years, I actually do have some deer that I know bed there.
Some doe family groups and stuff.
Yep. But for the most part, there's some big hardwoods that are untouched to the south of me, and I know that's where the majority of the bucks stay.
And that's a big section to the south of you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of woods. And
Yep.
So and you're kind of in a good, you're in a really good area, actually. So there's a lot of good surrounding around you, and that just goes to show you, I've said it before on the podcast, it doesn't matter how much ground you have as long as it's in the right, general area and you do the right things to it. And I'm starting to see that on the 1 acre as well, different scenario, but same kind of results in a way. But, you got a lot of good, hunters around you too that are like managing and everybody's on the same page. But to go back to that first year, so you had this one food plot, and what did you plant in that?
I think the first year, if I remember back, was just strictly rape and medium red clover.
Yep.
That was, I stuck with that, pretty simple.
And did you just have the 2 stands on there, the cherry tree, and then was it the southeast corner?
Yes, that
southeast
year.
Corner you just had. So, going through the fall, how did that come to be? Like, where was the deer movement like you thought it was going to be, or was it a surprise or like a letdown?
Actually at that point, the first couple years, I didn't hunt that much. The majority of it just being the fact of with those couple trees, you either have to be really aggressive, take your chances, but the wind was not right for it a lot of times. And my ex at the time had actually hunted it for the most part. But the deer movement was, you're always seeing deer out there.
Yeah.
It was always seeing good bucks. It was more or less a learning curve and trying to, at first I would try to play the wind a lot out there, and then I learned that you had to be a little more aggressive out there.
Right. Take a chance or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm finding with the 1 acre. It's like, you're not supposed to do that, but it's like that's the only thing I have. And then you go in there and do that, and it pays off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like push the envelope a little bit. But also, I find too that I'm kind of keeping myself out of there more if the wind's not right, and it helps. It might be you might only set it 3-4 times, but those 3-4 times something's gonna happen in those 3 because you're not back there all the time and doing it.
Yeah.
So. But then, you guys, you didn't kill a buck until, what was it, late October or November in there?
I believe hers was the first one she had killed, and it would have been, that last week of October, first week of November.
For some reason, it was like October 24th or something.
I know they were rutted up because it was one of the worst smelling bucks that I had ever smelled.
Really?
And, there was lots of opportunities leading up to that. But, that was the first buck, and it was, not a giant, 100 and, God, if I can remember right, like 115-inch 9-point.
Yep.
Older deer, huge deer. So that was, kind of the set it off point. And then the next two, we hunted on and off through that first year. Bow, I kind of stuck to the main farm, but we seen lots of them. And then the next one wasn't till I had killed that 8-point in rifle season.
Yep.
Third day in. And then
and you put a box blind up for rifle season, right?
Yeah.
Is that when you put it
Yep.
on the west side of the farm?
Yep, I put that in actually, and that was kind of a last-minute deal. She had accepted a new job. She was going to get to hunt more, and I was going to be over there, so we put a box blind in and, did it right in the middle of the rut. And I kind of scared me, but literally put it in that night. The next night I sat, and deer all over the place. I mean, right next to it. And then that was the year that Dad killed. He come in and, what was it, November 29th?
Right
29th.
after Thanksgiving, because I was home, and we decided to play cards and drink beer at my deer
day.
camp, all day and all night. And then he shows up the next morning with this, what was he, 138 or something like that?
136.
Yeah.
Yep, it was a 9,
Stud.
which, for a 20-acre parcel first year, I had seen him with a bow, because that was the year that I had taken a voluntary layoff for a month, and that was the only day in November that I did not hunt. So I'm still going to give you the blame for that, because I still hear about it. So
Let's be honest, though, that's your dad's luck.
it is. The year before, he killed a big one, and the 26th, I mean, killing deer after November 15th in Michigan, good deer is a
Difficult.
slim chance.
Difficult
of that.
around us.
Yep, but that guy's got patience.
Yeah.
He seems to make it happen.
Well, and let's be honest too. I he does do a lot of work, but he did piggyback off all your work.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
My dad's did it on me a couple times, and it pisses me right off.
Yeah, he knew too, because he was supposed to come up to camp that night. And
Yep,
he called
he
me,
didn't.
and he heard how possibly intoxicated we might have been, and I knew he took the chance. And so when he called me, it wasn't 8:30 that next morning. I'm sitting there, and I was not answering the phone. Finally, the third time, it was hurting my head so bad. I'm like, "What do you want?" He's like, "Well, I shot a buck. It's a good buck." I says, "Okay." He's like, "How you feeling?" It's like, "Not good. What do you want?" "Well, that'd be a good time to tell you that I killed him out of your blind, huh?" I'm like, of course, right out of bed I go, and it was it was a good buck. That's for sure.
He was. So that was year one. You
Yep.
killed 3 bucks on there, and then coming into year 2, I know you had another game plan to expand a little bit, and so break down your game plan coming into year 2 then.
Well, for when I had bought that, it had been more or less untouched for, honestly, I don't know how many years, but they had one rifle blind on there that no one had hunted in quite a while. So to my knowledge, it was more or less untouched. So going into it, I wanted to go small at first. I don't want to, especially with no trees and
Yep.
stuff, I felt as if I went too big right away, it was going to screw them up and push them out of there. So year 2, I went on to another small food plot, kind of more or less towards the south west corner, where I had put that rifle blind right down in front of it, and stuck with the other one too. If I remember right, year 2 we did not kill one off there. We seen several actually. I drew back twice on the biggest buck that I've ever drawn back on it to date still. And that was, it was kind of, that was my goal, and it still is just kind of slowly, year after year, add maybe a little something
Right.
here or there without doing too much harm.
Yep.
So
Now, to kind of get sidetracked here a little bit, do you think that there ever comes a time where you're like, okay, I think I've done all the changes I need to do, now I just need to maintain that? Or do you think it's something that you always have to be adapting and year in, year out and doing different things?
I think you can go, at least with the way my setup is, I think you can go too far, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm going to plan on continually doing the plots I got and maybe expanding a couple feet here or there, whatever. But, as far as once I get to my goal of what I want, it's just going to be adding, my goal is to add like 2 apple trees every year or some pine trees. And my biggest feat, which, we can talk about also, and I know you're going to do some, is putting in some borders around, trying to conceal it a little more, because I do, without having any trees, I get cars coming up and down the roads, and I mean,
there's a couple pockets through there you can see kind of in the property too.
Yeah, and if you go to my one gate, I mean, if you really looked back, you can see me sitting right in the tree. And it's not seemed to affected me thus far, but I mean, the cars drive by and they drive by real slow when they see my truck out there, and it's constantly in the back of my head is there a big buck standing up there that he just took off the other way because the car pretty much stopped. So, but yeah, I think I could go too far with it, and I'm getting close to what I want. It's just more or less maintaining it and adding a little, trying to get some more trees in there at some point, some cover.
And I agree, and I think firsthand, and I think you'd attest to it, the beehive on my family farm. I shot that good buck in there on, what was it, 2015 or 16, I can't remember. But it was one of those things, you and I hung that stand and trimmed. That's it. We just trimmed the lanes, and I mean, it was a honey hole. And then the next year I went in there, and there was a little opening, and I decided to cut some trees and try to make a little plot in there and put a water hole, and I totally, fucked it all up. It literally changed everything. No deer movement through there, didn't see a deer at all, and I'm like, damn it. And I screwed it up. So it's like, I think every hunter always, and manager always, tries to play with that fine line. What is too much, what isn't, and I think with you, changing, putting some new trees and stuff like that, I think is fine. And then putting some borders up, like Border Patrol or sorghum or whatever. And food plots, I don't think they mind. But when you get in there and really start developing and, opening things up a little more and, making it so it's not as thick like I did, it really hurts them. And I that was like a light bulb moment that year, and it was like, okay, I went way too far and I screwed that up,
Yeah, well, and that's, a deer, whether we get in camera, we could have 15 cameras overlooking one field, and that deer can walk between them without not getting seen. And they're 100% looking at their surroundings at all points. So when you change one little thing, even a food plot. So change is good, but they're just like people. Change messes with their minds.
Yeah.
And like you said with the beehive, that buck knew all them deer. You had a lot of deer in there that year.
A lot of deer.
And it was small. It was concealed. You knew from the get-go that they were going to be on top of you, and it was going to be tight. But they felt safe doing it. And, it goes to show that he came in the first night and he felt safe and you got it done. But as soon as you open that up, it's just, you just
my
completely
pictures
changed.
went down too.
Yeah.
Like my deer pictures, and
know that you were putting things in there that they wanted. That they would want, but at the same point, you did it all right there. And that was, of course, you guys got a lot of pressure up there too.
Yep.
And that was one of the spots that was completely unpressured for how many years for the most part. So, yeah, you not only went in and, put a little pressure and little scent in there, but then you changed their whole little muster area there, and, it don't take much.
Exactly, and all the daylight pictures went to dark.
Yep.
And the thing was that I didn't overhunt it. I hunted it that night, killed that buck. I didn't come back. Oh, my dad did. My dad came back, and did he miss a good buck? No, he had a good. He got busted. That's right. He had a good buck coming in the rut, and right underneath him, he went to pull back, and the deer caught him. You know, so that stand could have developed another good buck out of there. And then the year I go in there next year, and I trim up some stuff, make it a little the little pocket in there a little bigger, and put a water hole in, and do all this, and it's like, I think us as hunters always think like we could be doing something else to help us, but in reality, everybody always says it, first time in is the best. You know what I mean? Get in there and hunt it, and that's when it usually happens. And it's like, I'm learning it, and I think everybody kind of learns it, and you have to learn it the hard way sometimes. But like even with the 1 acre, I'm learning that like you gotta stay the hell out of there, and then it's gonna happen. So,
Well, yeah, you can't go too drastic, and if you don't take them chances, I mean, just like I've talked about, going in there with the scent, you take them chances if the wind's blowing the wrong way, but the fact of trimming something or putting water here, putting water there, if you don't try it, you're not gonna know. And
Right.
it's process elimination.
Exactly.
Now you know, and for the next time, and that'll grow back. I mean, that's got a bunch out of olive back in the beehive to where it's just not going too far at once, far as I'm concerned.
Right. So went down that rabbit hole a little bit there, but let's get back on track. So year 2, you guys didn't kill anything on it. You had a good buck on there. You were getting pictures all year of good bucks on there, if I remember right. So then transitioned to year 3, and that's when you started you opened up the plot and made it bigger, right? You put a cornfield in there, basically. So explain that. Like, what'd that take? Because you had autumn olives all over, and, did you have to take any of those autumn olives out, and what'd you do?
Yeah, year 2, the neighbors ended up killing a couple real good bucks. They killed an 11 point that I had that was 5.5 years old, I think is what he ended up being. But yeah, going into year 3, had our buddy Caleb come out, and he brought out the tractor, and it was just sparse autumn olives in one spot. It's almost, it's like 2.5 acres or so. And he put the rock bucket on the tractor and just went through and just plowed them autumn olives over. And I mean, it wasn't an hour had that cleared out, and he brought in a plow, plowed it down, dissed it all up good. And
did you kill it first, or did you just plow it right then with the tall grass?
No, he just plowed it. And I mean, he had that 5-bottom plow that he had got from our buddy Matt there, and I mean, he buried it. It was the soil's really good over there, so he did that, dissed it, and planted it all, I don't know, within a week or so.
Yep.
And that was the biggest change I had over there so far. But, we have so much crops around us, but that little piece right there really, the neighbor Rod Dent's is about the closest, and that's half mile or so. So that, of course, being virgin soil, that corn, man, it did good that year.
And did you fertilize it at all?
Yep.
You did?
Yep, fertilized it that year. Virgin soil. I mean, and we actually, we got it in just perfect, which, and anybody else that knows Michigan, you never know what the weather is going to be like. So we got rain right away. And shoot, my cornfield was 10 foot tall, and I wasn't sure how it was going to be, but man, the deer, we had crazy amounts of deer at that year.
So is that the year you added the other box blind?
Nope. No, that was last year.
So you had the cherry tree.
I had the cherry tree. I took the one down in the southeast corner, and then the first box blind that I had put that food plot in on the second year, I actually expanded that trail up to the top and put up probably a 1/16 of an acre of a clover field, and then I put a stand up in one of them pines right there on the corner. And that was kind of where, that was a big change, and that's kind of, as far as planting it, I expanded that first plot I ever did into a horseshoe kind of wrapping around that tree.
And you connected all the plots together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Small, that top plot, I just do more or less a 5-foot wide strip, and I kind of zigzag it. And, that was kind of a process of elimination, talking with our buddy Jeff.
Yep.
And when he come out there the one day, he was like, yeah, you should do that. And I'm like, it's not a bad idea. And the first year, man, they traveled the crap out of it. I mean, it's only knee-high grass all the way around it, but they, right from that plot down to that other plot into the corn, and next thing you know, they pop out of the corn down into it.
Yep.
It does. So far, that's actually worked really well for me.
And I was out there with you yesterday, and one thing I saw is where you connected the plots together. So for everybody, painting you a picture. So think of a horseshoe plot, like, just a food plot to the east, and then that continues into like a 2.5 acre cornfield, and then that comes into like the clover field. But what you did is where you connected those plots, that's where your stand was, and each of your spots where you're going to hunt, and you made it almost so tight where they have to go through there, and that's where you're going to get your shot, which was very smart.
Yep.
Like I thought, and that was cool. Like right there in that cherry tree, if anything wants to go from the horseshoe plot to the cornfield, they got to come right through that little funnel, that little pinch to get into it. So that was a good move.
Yeah, and that's I've noticed, I was going to change that and make that a little bigger, where the corn stops to that, and then but that where it bottlenecks down right there, they all funnel, for the majority where them hardwoods are for anybody that hasn't seen it, are kind of down to the southeast of me more or less. The bucks all seem to come out of there.
Well, and it's a low area too.
Yeah.
It's the lowest part of the property.
Yep, and they travel the crap out of that, and the bucks all seem to come out of there for the most part. And then the does I've gotten ever since we started planting that corn. Now the does stay there.
Yep.
And that's been my biggest feat is I've got some old does,
yep.
and they push the bucks off. I've actually watched them. They push them bucks off until they're rut. So that's been my biggest issue, because you don't have trees, you don't have cover. Trying to hunt them does 100 yards away, they can spot you every move you make.
Tough.
So
yeah, access is tough.
Yeah.
So you're into year 3 now, and like I said, I can't remember what happened year 3, but how'd the fall go? How was the fall?
We seen a lot of deer. She ended up killing a good deer out there, that good 8-point, with the broken 3.
Was that with the gun?
Nope, that was a bow. That would have been the year that I tagged out on October 4th.
Oh, right. So you were done 4 days in the season, so you didn't hunt it at all.
Yep. And actually was wanting that. I had a buck over there that at that point was 4.5, just a tall, tight 10, and he was a stud of a deer. And she ended up getting that other one. And then, the rest of the year, I actually just went and spent my time sitting over there in the blind. Yep. And I put a hay bale out there in the winter, went out there with the late bow and a muzzleloader, ended up killing a couple deer, and just more or less watching and taking inventory. And, that's where kind of leading up to last year, I watched a split brow 9-point that I believe was 2.5 that year. But yeah, man, it was just, they piled in there into that corn in late season. So I just sit there for that year, kind of.
And you went in there late season and killed some does?
Yep. Went in.
Yep.
I killed one with a bow, and then I killed one with a muzzleloader late season, and then I actually brought my grandpa in to shoot one.
Wait a second. I got to go back, because that was the year you skipped the arrow off the blind, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to go there with that.
Yeah. I almost forgot about that.
Yep, I built that box blind, and I put regular gun windows in it, not thinking, being where it is, really, it's kind of in the middle of that field, and I didn't really plan on planting all the way around it. Them deer skirted it all the time, so I figured it was going to be for a gun. Well, it was late season. I was tagged out. I wasn't really in the hunt hard mode. I was more of
be comfortable,
kick the heater on, relax, and take inventory if something steps out. So I was like, man, I want to kill something with the bow. At this point, it's December, late December. It's cold, and I hadn't shot anything with it since the 4th, so I took that out, and I had these does come in 4 or 5 nights in a row. Finally, that next morning worked out, and I drew back, and I set the pin on her and touched her off. Well, the arrow did not quite clear the ledge of the window, and all I heard was snap. Felt something hit me right between the eyes, and I'm like, as you know, my luck's not good. I've had 2 bows blow up on me, so soon as that happened, I just kind of sit there for a minute, and I'm like feeling for my fingers, and I can feel that I'm not like bleeding all over and everything, and I open up, and I see this nice broadhead mark going right across the windowsill. Deer all scattering, and oh yeah, I had pieces and parts of the arrow in the blind.
But your bow didn't blow up.
Nope, just the
arrow. When you text me that picture of that windowsill, I lost it.
Oh man, she was good as dead too. I was eating her already, but yeah. So that kind of finalized year 3. It was, there was a lot of good deer that were out there, but it was just after, like I said, I got so much stuff. I was doing some side jobs. I didn't get out in the woods a lot after October 4th.
Yep.
I didn't really need to, I guess.
Well, I heard a lot of bitching and complaining that you weren't hunting, but I'm over here grinding. Everybody else is, and I'm like, I would take anything to tag out on October 4th on those 2 deer every year.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't have been so bad if some of the couple even almost bigger ones wouldn't have showed up later on. But
Yep.
oh well, I was got to complain about something.
Yeah. Well, so, going to last year then. Last year you basically maintained the same plan, but then you added one more box blind that
Yep.
you could shoot a bow out of.
Yep. Yeah, well, that was my deciding factor that year. I sit there after I text you that morning. I sit there and I'm like, first off, I put a lot of time into that blind. That blind's nice and it's comfortable, but I was so mad that morning, even over a doe, that I wanted to go out and take the saw to it and start putting bow windows in it. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just break down, go over to a guy we know there that has the Amish make blinds for him, and he sells them, and I'm gonna buy some box blinds. And the other goal of that was, because I couldn't hunt that much, and I know what the potential is over there, is keep myself, as far as concealed, as far as movement and wind.
Yep.
So that was the goal last year, was to put that in, and I actually kind of expected when putting it in that it was going to mess it up a little bit, because I was going to be more or less putting it right down in that first plot I ever did.
The horseshoe plot.
Yep, and I'm moving more or less right into their honey hole. It's not like putting a stand in a tree. I'm putting a box blind up in the air right on top of where they're coming out. So I didn't plan on, I plan on it kind of screwing it up for a year or two,
right.
But it would be worth it in the end, I guess. So
you put that up, and then going into the season, so you planted corn again.
Yep.
How'd the corn do?
Not good.
Not as good.
Nope. Ever since that first year it come up real good. Year 2 and 3, them does started living on my place because the food was there.
The hell out of it.
Yep. And I did keep more or less hay, food year round, which was my goal. And 20 acres, I've been able to find 7-8 sheds a year in Michigan.
Yep.
And that's not an easy feat in itself. But when you start keeping that food around, them does don't leave.
Late season food's huge.
Yeah. So, which, at one point I'm like, man, it kind of sucks because they push the bucks out and they're not letting my corn get up. But what are we putting it out there for? We want the deer. So it's doing what it is. But last year my corn didn't do that well. I ended up making some makeshift scarecrows, putting out there and kind of moving them around, and it ended up kind of halfway catching back up. And
did the scarecrows help, you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep the deer away.
But I noticed about every week and a half, 2 weeks, you have to go out and move them because they actually get used to them. And
really?
Yeah. So
that's more trips out into the farm too. So
Yep.
It's like that's a dedication that you got to do, and throughout the summer, at least just to get your corn to a point where the deer can't take it over.
They just want it when it's nice and when it's soft and tender.
Yep.
And
that might be something I do this year. We'll get into it here in a little bit. We'll talk about the cattle yard, but that might be something I do. But so you did the scarecrow thing and it helped, but you had to move them.
Yep. I noticed that it started, the corn started getting up a little bit, and then all of a sudden, boom, the deer were back in there. So it was like, all right, well, move them 15 feet this way and that way. And it did help, but I almost started doing it too late. So my yield as far as my corn was, it was slim. And then the weeds got in there, and it got up in like a week higher than what I could spray it. So the weeds overtook it. And I had a rough go on the food plots last year, but
you had clover in the top plot, right?
Yep.
And then what'd you have in the horseshoe plot?
Actually, last year was every one of them had all three. Was rape, clover, and chicory.
Okay.
I did all three of them other plots. I just went with the same thing last year.
Yep. So then was your game plan to hunt that box blind as much as you can, since it was like scent free, concealment basically? You can get in and out of it really relatively pretty easy, and access was good. Were you going to stick to that and just see what happened, or what was your plan going there?
For the most part, that was my plan, yeah. And that's it literally is 30 yards from that cherry tree that we've
the first stand you ever
luck.
had.
Yep. So I'm just on the opposite side where the wind would affect me less, and I'm not having to cross that food plot going into the stand, which I actually think did help me. But yeah, I was just going to kind of stick to that box blind, and like I said, I didn't plan on getting a shot at anything this year with, I figured I was going to screw it up by putting that out there, but, you know, you got to take that chance. And I had a good year the year before. I figured I'll take a couple of years, and once that comes into effect. But yeah, I got that set up.
When did you get it set up?
I want to say that I put that up in mid-June.
So, okay.
I put it up there and got it, you know, I had it all painted. I insulated it, did all that at the house, built a platform. I more or less went out, put the platform up, set the blind on it, built some stairs, went out, put them on it, and called her a day on that.
Yep. Okay. So you got up mid-June, painted it dark green.
Yep.
You know, and it's got tinted windows, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then you know, we come into the season, you got good buck pictures and everything just like the same. And, you know, take me through October, November with the fall.
Well, you know, the one I found out later in the year that I kind of wish I'd have went a route is like you did. I bought one that had gun windows and bow windows. Throughout October, the couple times that I did sit there, I hunted the actual tree farm a few more times. I didn't get a lot of chance to get out before November, but the couple times I did sit there, it seemed like I'd see a good buck every sit, but every time they'd stop was in a gun window. And as soon as they'd cross that bow window, it was a full-speed walk, and you only got – that is one of the downfalls to a box blind, as far as I'm concerned, is your shooting windows is a lot more slim. I mean, it's got its ups and its downs. So that was something I had to fight with a little bit, and so I hunted that 4 or 5 times probably in October, and then hunted 4 or 5 times at the farm. And, you know, I seen deer everywhere I went, really. I just couldn't conceal that deal. And then, you know, right around the end of that, we ended up going to Colorado elk hunting.
So when you get back from Colorado, you get back in the stand, and when did you guys get back? It was like end of October?
Yeah, it was, man, I want to say it was like the 30th.
Yeah, right around Halloween.
Yep. So the rut was kicking pretty good over by us at that point. So at that point, there wasn't a whole lot left on the farm that I was like crazy about. So I had 2 bucks over on the 20 acres, Little Texas, that I wanted to go after, and the one had disappeared, which was that, you know, double split, or that single split brow 9-point from the year prior. And he was kind of my regular deer, but I knew if he didn't get shot, he'd end up being back, because that was kind of his home territory late season. So November, I don't know, it had to have been the 6th, I believe it was. 4th and 5th, I had hunted out there. I hunted in the box blind, had the same issue with the windows. The bucks were running does pretty good, so finally I was like, you know, I'm going to tough out the cold, go jump in that cherry tree, and I sit there the November 6th morning, I think it was, and I had a hot doe come in, and 8 o'clock in the morning or so, I had looked over, I had 7 bucks all within vision, and then I seen one come into the right of me. I heard him, and I caught his antlers, and I thought it was the buck from the night before. He come up 35 yards, and, you know, it's so thick through there, it was like, either take the shot or don't take the shot.
Right.
And
he came from the south, right?
He came straight from the west, just south of the cherry tree.
From the cornfield.
Yep, more or less. And I grunted one time, full draw, let her eat, and, you know, I mean, just hammered him.
Yep.
Blood on impact. Ended up calling the old man and saying, you know, got that one down from the night before, which I thought he was. And he ran. I mean, I heard him pile up 45 yards, and we went back there and got him. And actually, it was an 8-point from the 40 yards where I shot him to the 40 yards where he died. Somehow broke off his G2.
G3. Wasn't it G3 on the right?
G3, yes.
G3 on the right,
Yep. So, that was a new one for me. It was crazy seeing a fresh break like that. It was almost like it was bleeding. It was crazy. But that was that, you know, and I hunted a couple more days, and then we got real busy at work.
Yep.
And I didn't hunt much. I hunted 1 or 2 days during gun season over there. Seen some decent deer, but just nothing that I was really after.
Yep.
So the neighbor killed one of the good ones that we had been seeing, and that was it.
So now going into this year, you're doing the same thing, not really adding much. Oh, you're going to put some border patrol up along the road.
Yep.
So basically like sorghum along the road to block the road.
Well, yeah, last year, December I ended up going back out, and I ended up getting on that double split brow 10.
Oh, that's right. Yep. He did show back up.
Yep. He showed back up. I shot a doe and seen him come across the scope that night, and I told my dad. He was way out. I'm like, I know that was that deer. Check trail cams, sure enough. And I told him, because he was so persistent the year before, I had watched him when I was tagged out there. I says, if he does the same thing, I'll need 1 or 2 sits and I'll kill this deer.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I went and crawled into the Boxblind on December 2nd, and 45 minutes in, here he comes. And laid the hammer down on him. So that was.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I forgot all about that.
That was my. That was a good buck. Not a giant by any means, but I know he was at least 3.5.
He was the one you found the shed too the
Yep.
year before.
I found both sides of his sheds, and
Yep.
that was the one that I had took all the footage of and pictures of, and so that was actually one of the deer that honestly meant the most to me. Just having that's the first time having history, finding the sheds, watching him the year before, taking pictures, and then, like I said, finding both his sheds was just, and that was the one deer that showed up first on trail cam, and that was like, and of course December 2nd with a bow.
Yep.
First late season buck I've ever shot.
Yep.
So, and that was out of the box blind. The
one that you put in there?
Yep.
So you killed 2 bucks out of the same box blind.
Well, the one was in the cherry tree, the first one.
Oh, okay.
And then the box blind was the second one. So he come in and offered me a 20-yard shot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that was what wrapped up my season as far as that goes.
So, like I said, coming into this year, you're going to basically do the same thing, just add some border patrol. That's all you're really doing.
Yep, putting the border patrol around the northeast corner, where was kind of more or less saying people are driving by the gate and looking. Just going to try it. I put in some Miscanthus gigantus here a couple of years ago and waited a little too long. The rhizomes got dry and not many of them took. So me and you had talked about that border patrol, and I went and threw some money away on a couple bags of them, and not only am I doing that, but I did a big horseshoe right around that box blind, so I'm hoping I can come in from that backside and be able to get up them stairs without anything seeing me. And then if it works, then I'm going to go with something that's more of a temporary, and I'll break down and spend the money on that Miscanthus or something along that lines. Yeah,
that's the thing. I got some bags of border patrol right over there, and I need to get it out. I'm so far behind on the food plot thing right now, but we've been so wet. The food plot I want to get in that you and I are talking about still underwater. Well, it's still wet, but I got to get in there. It's been underwater till this last week, and then we're supposed to get rain today, tomorrow, possibly Tuesday. So it's like
looking like all week. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess what would be some things that you would tell people with small properties, a couple bullet points to keep in mind, whether it be the big ones like access and stuff like that, but like for me it'd be like think outside the box with different scenarios, and that was my biggest thing with the 1 acre. It's like I have terrible access, but that night or that morning I shot Jim Abbott, I did everything that I was told and taught not to do. Went through an ag field in the morning, hunted on a field edge, which everybody says you can't kill mature deer in Michigan on field edges, and I was able to do that as well, and that's all I got to hunt is field edges. So, like, what are some things that you would tell people with small properties to do to be successful?
And I can tell something that someone else that has small properties that's probably been successful that is going to tell you exactly different. But as far as I'm concerned, you got to push your limits a little more on small properties. But you can't do it too far. As far as pushing your limits on what you do as far as your land, you don't want to go too far with your food plots. Do a little at a time, which is I've seen that work. But as far as like we were talking, as far as your scent goes, you got to take some chances, and you might go in and screw something up, so the next time. But you have the potential. It's just the biggest thing I see is, the people don't want to put the sweat equity in or spend a little bit of money.
Right.
Deer ain't going to come to a 20-acre parcel or a 10-acre or even a 40-acre parcel for nothing. If you don't spend some money, put some food, put some sweat equity, time out there to give them some reason to come in there, they're not going to do it.
Well, you might get an opportunity, but
yes.
That opportunity might be 5-6 years apart.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's
not consistent year after year, and it's like, it's in your best interest to stack the chips in your favor, and do whatever you can that way. And I always say, when we step on the property, even though it's our property, we're at an away game. You know what I mean? The deer know that 20 acres, it's, it's their bedroom basically.
Yep.
So they know that. They know when you pull in with your truck. They know when you walk down the grass, to get in your stand. They just know that,
Yep.
So it's like, the odds are already stacked against us. Do the things that you need to.
Yeah, and I think 5 years we've killed 6, I would say very respectable deer off it from Michigan. So I like to look at it as we're doing something right. We've killed the does. We're housing them there. We're having multiple opportunities. It's just, am I doing something wrong that could be bringing in a bigger buck yet? I don't know, but
yeah.
I've had to push the limits as far as hunting the perfect winds and going in and do I put this cornfield in? Do I make this? And going small and slowly working into it, I feel like would be my biggest thing. And then with a smaller parcel, which a lot of people, that's all they have, but over hunting it is a big thing,
Right. Oh yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing you can do. Of course, every guy wants to get out and hunt every day in October, every day in November, but a smaller parcel is even worse. You can overhunt it real easy.
And I was talking to a guy the other night too, and big deer hunter. You and I both know him, but he loves deer hunting. Well, he took up duck hunting as well. And he's got property that he can duck hunt on and that he doesn't necessarily have to deer hunt on. But he said that was one of the biggest things that he did, to keep himself busy, even though he's like, I want to go deer hunting, and I can't do that. I like duck hunting, but it's like, it's a deer season to me. But what I'm trying to say is, take up something to take up more of that time so you're not sitting every day maybe. Or if you have enough spots where you can go and not booger things up all the time, then go hunt as much as you can. And I'm not saying don't hunt all the time, but the 1 acre, I can maybe hunt it, depending on the weather, a couple times, 4 or 5 times. And then it's basically you got to get out of there. Like, you got to let it sit, But it's just one of those things. You kind of got to push your limits, like you said, but then really know when to pull on the reins and stay back.
Yeah, you got to push your limits, but restrict yourself, and that's a tough, fine line. I guess you kind of have to figure out. And that goes different for every property. You got the perfect 20 acres or perfect 10 acres. You might be able to go crazy on food plots and hunt it every night of the year.
Yep.
But I guess you kind of got to really put your time in to figure out what you can do there. And you're going to make mistakes sooner or later. You're going to spook deer. But at the end of the day, that's learning curve.
For sure. So I guess we're about up on time here, but I want to talk about hunting out of box blinds. Now, you've done it the last couple of years with a bow. I just went and got another box blind, so I have 2 now. But now I can hunt out of with a bow out of this one. I bought all bow windows, and we bought them from a guy we know, Jeff Snyder. So if anybody wants any blinds in the greater Remus area, central Michigan area, Jeff, they build some awesome blinds. And basically any way you want, they're all rough sawn lumber, all boxed in with good windows. You can have, tinted windows if you want. You can have regular windows. You can have all gun blinds. You can have gun blind windows with bow windows or all bow windows. I mean, anything, he'll build it for you, and they're reasonable in price.
Yeah, square, octagon. I mean, they got chicken coops. He's got a lot of stuff on hand, and the prices are definitely reasonable. And if you don't have it, he can build it for you. And they build the platforms. I mean, they got like a full ready set stairway. I
was just over there yesterday. He was showing me their platforms.
So they got everything over there.
Yeah, and he's just south of Remus. If anybody's knows Remus area, he's south there, probably 3 miles.
Yep, corner of M66 and Millbrook.
Yep.
So
you'll see blinds are out there on the side of the road all the time. But hunting box blinds. So this year in the 1 acre, I'm putting up 2 box blinds on stilts. And, for gun season, yes, but to be able to bow hunt out of them. And this is something I'm fighting with because I've made this 1 acre now with the hinge cutting and the frost seeding and all that stuff. The deer freaking love it. They will not come out of it. Well, I mean, they'll come out of it, but they love to be in there because it's so thick and they've got water and food right there. So now it's hard to hunt. So now I'm going to hunt the edges of it, 60, 80 yards off. And it's one of those things that I'm fighting with. It's like, how do I get the deer out in the field? Well, I think the years when it's going to be corn and beans, I think it's going to be good. This year it's wheat, so it's going to be barren the whole year, once the wheat comes off. But it's one of those things that I can get in tight with not a lot of trees and be able to hunt. And, might not see a lot of deer, but it might be that time where you do see some good deer. And now I can press some winds, some different winds that I wouldn't be able to in a stand because I'm completely concealed, leave the windows shut in it, and they're rock solid tight,
Yep.
So it's different. I've never really hunted out of a box blind with a bow, filmed out a lot of them, but I mean, what's your take on it? A lot of people see the juries doing it all the time, and they're like, "Oh, that's so easy of hunting, on a food plot and everything." And it's like, to me, man, you gotta hunt the way that your property will allow it. Yep. If you don't have a lot of trees, I think it's a great way to get kids into it too.
Well, at the end of the day, the juries are filming. They're trying to cover up. They got not only they don't just have a hunter. They got camera equipment. They got you, and that. They're trying to cover up movement, scent, and let's be honest, them boys, they know what they're doing. It don't matter where they're at, they're killing big bucks. And if you can continually do that, any state, you're doing something right. So people should take it something from them.
Well, and that deer that Mark shot, I think it was Danger or something like that, it was 220 inches or something like. They put that box blind in the day before they killed him or something like that. They knew there was no trees in there. I mean, you can watch the episode on or go on their YouTube and watch it, but they literally brought the tractor and put the box blind on a new platform right there, hunted the next day, and killed that deer.
Yep.
So it's like, I don't know. The deer literally walked straight by the platform and the blind, and you can see in the frame, you can see the wood and everything. They didn't even paint it or nothing. It's like,
I think you can get them away with a little more of that in different states. We're used to. I think a deer comes out and is like, "Holy crap! There's a new blind here."
They're not saying blind, but they're saying something.
Yeah, we're steering away from this for the next month and a half. But no, I think you get away with a lot more. But you put some more aspects into it of, is it going to mess it up for a year or two, or is it? I think the biggest thing is especially with you is going to be your access of being able to get into it,
right.
Where that, and then like you said, getting them deer out there 60 to 80 yards. At this point, you witnessed it last year with Jim Abbott.
Yep.
You can't hardly get into there now. You did what you wanted. You got the deer to stay there, but if you can't get in there, so now you got to adapt, and okay, you might not be able to hunt it until the rut, where you got a decoy to pull them out to that close, or you get 100% comfortable enough to shoot in 60 to 80 yards, which, of course, a lot of people are going to frown upon. But if you know your equipment, it can be done pretty easily. So as far as that being said, I think they're great. I had good luck, and at the end of the day, I can hunt longer. I can sit in there, and I'm not afraid to throw a heater in there. And I mean,
Oh,
when
yeah.
I shot that 10-point 20 yards, I had the heater going. It was warm. And you can call me a sissy or call me whatever, but at the end of the day, I put another good buck on the wall.
Yeah.
And it was an accomplishment because it was out of that blind that I set that year for
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's comfortable, and that's the thing. Like you said, any way to be able to get you in the woods and sit longer and have more opportunity, then do that.
Yep.
I opted to I bought the blind from Jeff that's got the tinted windows. Like you were telling me, low light, you got to open up the windows. Usually it's kind of tough, but that thing's awesome. When you get it out there and you look at it, you can't see hardly at all in those blinds, and especially if you paint them in the inside,
Yeah, and that's what I did. I went dark on the inside, and I've tested it against some mature does, and with them windows shut and that dark inside, they legitimately cannot see you 5 yards.
Yeah.
We talked about it yesterday, and I think that's a biggest thing, and especially the other big thing is we're trying to get kids out there and stuff, and you got a daughter coming up. This box blind, she's kind of a jabberjaws. Just realize she knows how to talk, so that's your biggest feat. But as far as here soon, you get that established in 2-3 years where she can get that aspect of being quiet. I mean, that's when you're going to realize now I'm set up to where I can start taking her. And so
that's the thing, and I've got 2 of those blinds now. I want to buy a third one for the cattle yard, in which we can get into real quick here. Over on my family farm, and you're well aware of it. The lay of the land. You've been around there a lot. On the west side of or east side of the property, there's this long stretch of, I don't know if trees didn't grow there or if my, Uncle Bill just didn't plant them there. I don't know, because there's pine trees, and then it's like 40 yards wide, and then it's the property line. I don't know why he wouldn't have, because I wasn't obviously around when he had it, or, even my relatives before that. But it's about 3 acres. And it's just tall grass, and I've been putting a food plot in there the last, 8 years, maybe not 8 years, 6 years, something like that. But it's really sandy, and this year you kind of talked to you a little bit about it, and, the neighbor Jake, and he's going to let me use his grain drill, but I think going to do a bean field and see if I can get some beans to grow up in there.
Yeah, and we've talked about that in the past many times. And it's
over
more or less just
mini barley pops.
Yep, more or less just getting you to not be so cheap and spend a little bit
cheap
of cash in there. But no, at the end of the day, it's not far from the beehive that we talked about a little bit ago. It's really not. There's, as the crow flies, 150 yards or something like that.
Yeah, if that.
And it's in the middle of more or less 2 perfect bedding areas that's untouched. And I think that's an absolute gold mine there. It's just getting that. You got to compete where you're at there. You got to compete with food. So without giving them 2-3 acres of something good, you're not going to pull them to it.
Right. So to kind of paint the picture, I don't even know. They need to reseed the hayfield that's up top. I don't know what they're doing with that.
That's brutal this year.
It's bad. I had no idea. I don't even think there's even any alfalfa or hay in it, know. But so if you come off of that field to the east, like you said, probably 150 yards, it goes through a section of timber, hardwood timber, into a section of pines, and then the open area, and then the property line. But on the other side of the property line, it's a Christmas tree farm that has been grown up, and it is thicker than hair on a dog's back. I mean, when you walk there, you got to be on your hands and knees, to get through there. And we know the deer are bedding in there, know. And so my neighbor Jake, he's you grew up with them, and I know him as well. They hunted over there, but he even said it's tough hunting, and it's thick, and I think they're gonna leave it over there, which access is tough. And the other thing that hurts me is just to the northeast of it is a campground.
Yeah.
So there's always people back there, and but like you said, you never know until you try. The deer might just hammer 3 acres of beans, and not even let them get up. And the Scarecrow idea is a good idea. I might do that, but tractor's down right now too, so I'm trying to rally the troops to get a tractor to help. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, well, and the campground is a feat you're gonna have to deal with at this point. But that was there when you killed them coming out of the beehive. It's just like just like all these people killing these giants in rural
urban areas.
People get used to, or deer get used to people, and at that point, it's just. I don't think that's going to affect you. They're there. They see it every day. They know what's going on. But if you can get something to grow in there, it's going to be, I think, sky's the limit in that spot. It's just getting in there, putting the time, and, you might find out after the first year that it ain't worth it, or you might find out that you've been missing out on something for quite a while. So
yeah, we'll see. Hopefully within the next couple weeks I can get the beans in the ground. We're already kind of getting late here, but if not, if that doesn't happen, I do have, some clover and stuff that I'm going to put in at least to make something out of it and have something in there. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can get them beans in there, and next thing you know, you'll be needing another box blind up there. And
one's going to have to happen because Peyton's getting older, and that's my spot on the farm for rifle hunting too. So just to be able to take her out there and see deer and look at deer, she loves looking at deer. We have deer come in the yard every night, and
oh, that's what she wanted to see yesterday, man. Babies.
Yep,
babies.
She calls them all babies.
Yep.
All the deer are babies. So, well, cool, man. Let's we're at just over an hour, and we'll wrap this up. But I appreciate you coming on and doing this again.
Yep.
And I'll let you have the rest of your Sunday. So.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on, and we'll have to do her again towards or after season or something.
For sure. All right, there it is. Another great episode. The second time Aaron's been on the podcast. And, I think there's a lot of cool information in this one and a lot that you guys can take from it and maybe, implement on your farm. So I appreciate him coming on here and doing this. And, it's midday on a Sunday. I'm watching the baby monitors. My daughter's sleeping in her bed, and I'm just waiting for her to wake up at any moment. But, like I said, I appreciate him coming on and doing this. So, I'm gonna ask you guys to, if you could, go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. Click the 5 stars if you would, please, and leave some feedback. Let me know what you think about this episode. Let me know what you think about everything. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe you do like it. I'd appreciate to hear what you guys are thinking, so I can hone in on a little more topics that you guys want to hear possibly. So I appreciate you guys listening, and don't forget, next week we'll have an all new episode. Thanks, guys.